Hello everyone. Thank you for joining my Friday stream. It's been an interesting week so far. It's been very, very interesting. Um, Trump is obviously still throwing some tariffs out there. We haven't seen a huge move in the market yet. To be honest, we're pretty much on Bitcoin. We're pretty much uh, almost where we were about a week ago. So it's a little disappointing that we're kind of back down in this range. The idea was that Bitcoin was obviously in an impulse to the upside, where the target was between 90,000 and a bit to 92,000. This orange area here is basically my sell zone, but it's still likely that Bitcoin can get to there, but the condition is that Bitcoin will have to basically hold this area here around the 83,400 area. So these previous swing lows here, I would like to see Bitcoin hold these. This one here. Bitcoin, in my opinion, will have to hold these lows in order for us to have continued upside momentum. We obviously broke out of this ascending wedge. Typically, ascending wedges do break down to the downside. Typical target areas are usually the low of where it started. Now, I'm not saying we will get there immediately. My general consensus, as everyone kind of probably knew, was that we were going to see between 70 and 75,000 at some point for Bitcoin. I still think we will go there. And that is not invalidated until we see a break above this high on the higher time frame here at around 95,000. So until we see a break above this 95,000 area and we sustain a break, I think I mentioned this last time, I'm not just talking about kind of like a wick and then back down. I'm talking about sustained break above and possible consolidation above that 95k area, then we could probably assume that the low is in. However, we can't assume that yet. Bitcoin has failed to go up in an impulse. So at best, Elliott wave structure, this is pretty much a diagonal structure here. I would have liked Bitcoin to get to the 90k area in this third wave. So the way I'm measuring this is basically you have wave 1, wave 2, wave 3, and what I would have liked to have seen was a 4 and a 5, with the fifth wave possibly breaking above that area of resistance. We haven't got that. We haven't got that yet. Where we have reached is we've pretty much bounced around. I know it might be a little bit hard to see because I've got too many things on here. Let me take out all these indicators that I don't care about. Yeah, so we pretty much have reached the 100% Fibonacci retracement area. That's pretty much where we're battling at the moment. As I said, the target would have been around the 91k area. Typically for a third wave, I always look for getting to at least the 1.382 Fibonacci retracement, but it's hard to say at this point. Bitcoin really needs to reverse at this point. If we take a fib retracement from the low of our wave 2 to where we are now, you can see that we're kind of basically bobbling around the 50% to the 618 golden pocket area. So for me, Bitcoin basically has to hold this area. I think if we do see a break below these lows, as I mentioned, Obviously I did have a possible long trade. But to be honest, it would not be a long trade to 90K anymore if we do kind of just continue to break down at this level. The hope was obviously that Bitcoin would be holding the initial 84,300 level. It didn't. It's kind of like pushed down. We have reacted to this previous low here, but this at the moment it doesn't really look very promising. I mean, we obviously have a wick. We have a nice wick, but really I would like to have seen this be eaten up way more than it is from the buyers. So we haven't really got buyers in right now. I don't see any level of a really good reversal at the moment. The RSI on the 4 hour is obviously coming down to a possibly oversold area, but oversold would really be anything below like 25, 20s area. I would say that, down here would be oversold. So like if we look at Bitcoin on the daily and the RSI being oversold has pretty much 100% win rate, to be honest. So we look at when Bitcoin was oversold. Bitcoin was oversold on the 28th of February. You can see we had this low here. We did come back to retest that low, very slightly drop below it. But you can see we have a good upside reaction to that. You could probably see similar areas if we just look at oversold areas on Bitcoin on the daily. Here, for instance, you can see 5th of August, that was that 48,900 low. And then obviously we had upside continuation until pretty much 100K, right? So oversold daily RSI on Bitcoin is pretty much, I would say almost a guaranteed reversal. I haven't seen it fail. And we pretty much did get that. We pretty much did get a reaction. I mean, you could see here when it was oversold. We basically went from 78,300 all the way to that 95K area. Back down again, we made a new low, but you can see the RSI is a little bit higher. So we've got a little bit of bullish divergence here on the daily. However, Bitcoin still looks relatively weak in my opinion. As I said, realistically, we really should have seen Bitcoin push to at least 90K. We haven't done that in an impulse. We've broken out. We're struggling now at this point. And, quite simply, we just have to turn around. We have to turn around within this area here, not break below these previous lows. Complete invalidation for me would be breaking below this 81,300 level. I mean, I still would be very skeptical about Bitcoin getting to 90K, even if we break below these levels here. I mean, we were obviously kind of like ranging a little bit for a while between, the 81K and the 84,000, 85,000 area. We had that initial breakout, came back down again, broke out. But we're not able to kind of sustain this. We haven't sustained this. You could see this swing failure pattern here where we kind of had this, we had a high, then we made a lower high, so we couldn't make this higher high. So this essentially is a failure here, and we just could not break over the 88,750, right? As soon as we made this new low here, obviously it was optimistic in the sense that buyers obviously were eating this back up. But then obviously, we were breaking out of the trend line, hovering very close to the trend line. Then we had this 4 hour close borderline almost outside of the trend line. That is where buyers had to turn up again. They didn't. And then obviously this is where you see this very large big red candle that obviously sent us all the way down, and we're obviously still kind of hovering around this area. We're not really showing a lot of strength on the 1 hour. We're oversold, but the hourly oversold doesn't, it's not like the best indicator, to be honest. We could still kind of go up and then further down and become even more oversold on the 1 hour. So yeah, not looking good. Bitcoin has to reverse at this point. And the areas are clear. Reverse, get past the 88,750, which was obviously acting as our level of resistance. Reach that 90k area. Again, we don't have upside continuation of 100k plus until 95k is broken. Downside wise, as I said, breaking these lows, not a good sign. It'll be challenging for Bitcoin to obviously recover if we do break these lows, but for me, invalidation point is basically here at 81,300. If we see a decisive break below this level and just kind of consolidate and then we can't get back over it, for me, that would be confirmation that we will be going to that 70k area. And at that point, I might enter a short. You could have shorted from here. It was possibly a good short setup. I was going to short here, but to be honest, I was way too busy with everything else. But when this swing failure pattern occurred, this would have been a very good short. But unfortunately, I was like super busy. But this would have been nice, right? So this would have been nice, where you basically would just have your invalidation point pretty much above that previous high. And you would probably target, you would target the last low, which is down here, right? Which is pretty much where it was reached. So the risk and reward ratio on that was still pretty good, right? That would have been your TP1. Then your TP2 would probably be around here. That would be your short trade. So your TP2 would be here. Obviously, after every single TP, you know the drill, guys. Make sure you set your stops before entry, and that obviously guarantees you profit. So yeah, that is the outlook on Bitcoin at the moment. Let's go to ETH, because I know everyone was saying that ETH basically shat the bed. ETH is obviously going to do pretty much the same thing that Bitcoin is doing, but ETH just gets hit harder because it's ETH, and ETH has been performing like crap for a long while. I keep saying this. I've really, really not got high hopes for ETH at the moment. I was in a short, my own short from like 20,090, so pretty much this area up here. Closed it way too early. That was on my funded account, but I've got beef with the people for the funded account and basically told them to bugger off. Anyway, long story. But the point is, a short from obviously 2,100, 2,090 would have been really nice. You could see Ether's also broken out of this trend line. Really good shorting opportunity that I also, I probably should have re-entered, but again, I didn't spot it because too busy. But I will obviously try and make sure that I set my alerts a little bit more on ETH, because ETH seems like really, really good to just kind of mess around with in terms of shorting at certain areas, and this was a very good example here, right? I mean, we can see that this trend line, I think I've drawn that the way I want to draw that. So we've got one touch point, briefly broke over it, 2 touch point, 3 touch point. You can see here this 4-hour candle basically broke down from the trend line. We came to retest. So again, this is pretty much where you would want to be smart with your setup. So what you could do is you can have your stops basically just above this previous swing high here. And then this is obviously your entry, right? Where the trend line is, this is your entry. So you want to carry this basically all the way down till about, yeah, I mean, you could probably pull it all the way down to about here, even all the way down to here, to be fair. But you would obviously take TPs at specific areas. So, you know, you would take a TP. This would be your TP1. This would be your TP2. And then obviously you can maybe have a final TP either here or possibly at where this wick is, like 50% of the wick is typically traditionally what happens, but you know, it's up to you. You could have obviously had the final TP here, or you could have had it here where this previous wick was, this previous lie. So that would have been a really good setup, but you know, it's fine. There are always setups that we can grab. ETH, as I said, it's really been struggling against Bitcoin, to be honest. Really been struggling. This red line, I'd actually drawn it for like potential upside continuation, but obviously we broke through that. So yeah, that was obviously invalidated. Short played out. Now, for me, for continued upside pressure, we really need to either hold this level here, which is where we have that previous low. Let's put this in orange. Or we have the 78.6 retracement area. Now, what I always traditionally say is that if we break down from the 78.6 retracement area, normally that indicates trend reversal. Okay, so in this scenario, if you want to see ETH continue its upwards momentum, we need to be holding 1833. There is obviously one more level left, which would obviously be 1760. That is invalidation, right? So we've got a couple of areas here. Yeah, I've already labeled this area here. So yeah, these are basically the invalidation points. Well, we've got one invalidation point and one potential kind of last resort area. But really, this is where I would want to see ETH turn around. I really wanted ETH to get to at least $2,125. So yeah, slightly kind of around this area here where this previous high was. This is pretty much where I would have liked to have seen ETH for that third wave. But again, we didn't get it, right? There's still a chance. There is still a chance that we get there. You can see that, yeah, we pretty much missed that area that I wanted to see ETH get to. I can probably take these fib lines out, but yeah, this is pretty much kind of like what we're seeing now. Expectation is that we do potentially have a little rally to the upside. I wouldn't say it's a huge rally because we have structural resistance in a couple of areas. So we've got this previous low here that we dropped through. And then we've got obviously the lows that we have here. Okay. Sorry, I was just drinking some water. Yeah. So that's pretty much it on ETH, to be honest. I mean, you know, the levels are clear. I had previously called out Link, which was it was a bit of a shame, right? Because, you know, I was watching Link here at 1590 and, you know, I knew it was a level of resistance, but again, same with ETH, right? I kind of just wanted it to go a little bit higher before it completely collapsed. But obviously, we just basically reached this area here and then obviously just broke down. So we couldn't, again, you can see here, swing failure pattern. So pretty much just couldn't get above that previous high, broke down. Now, you know, for me, I would say it is already likely that Link is going to form a new low So I'm kind of putting it out there. I don't see Link going back up to my entry. I'd love it to. I'd love Link to go back up to where my, 1640, 17, 20, whatever it is up here. Yeah, 1755. I'd love for Link to kind of fill in my short entries here. But whether it happens, I'm not sure. I'm not sure because this was obviously a level of resistance. I probably should have just, like, current market price entered in here and made these as just like made 1639 as a DCA, but it is what it is, right? So yeah, we might obviously get back up there, but it's looking weak. It's looking as weak as ETH. A lot of coins are obviously following ETH, and obviously Bitcoin. But I mean, if we literally take a fib from the previous low to the high, you can see we're kind of even breaking through the 88.6% fib level, which is, at this point it just seems very unlikely to see a very good reversal. The only thing I could say is that maybe, as I said, we could get like a small rally, but I'm not very optimistic about it, to be honest. I'm not very optimistic about it. Doge, which obviously I have taken a long on, was one of the more promising charts, and I should probably not make the lines so bold because they're kind of in your face, aren't they? I need to just like. I think I sometimes do that just to kind of just to be like, yeah, okay, this is you need to remember this is here, but there's something called alerts that I set, so there's always that. So yeah, we can see here that I'd previously drawn this fib, so that we can see that we pretty much reached the 100% retracement area on that third wave. So the way I see this is that we've got wave 1, wave 2, wave 3, but wave 3 ideal target would have been that 21 cent level, right? Would have been the ideal target. Again, we haven't reached it, which means that we're either going to reach it or we just don't. We never complete that third wave. The third wave's short. I am obviously in a long because this is acting as major support for Doge now. So you can see that there are previous highs that we have reached here. So obviously you had these previous lows that were pretty much around this like 18 cent level. We broke through it, came to retest, rejected, broke down, came to test it here, rejected, pushed through, retest, successful, and now we're kind of sitting at that level again, right? So that's kind of like the logic behind taking a long specifically here. Points of DCA is pretty much here as well because there was like level of resistance around the 0.176 area, so around the 17.5 cent area. So that's obviously our first DCA entry. Then we have our second DCA entry down here, which is pretty much in line with where this previous order block was, where we had basically upside continuation. So we briefly had that pretty small 4-hour candle, but this is still obviously an area where we have an order block that could be filled. And then anything below, realistically, anything below this low here, I mean, I'm not even giving Doge the benefit of the doubt and saying this low and this low, because if we're losing the previous low here, to me that's invalidation. Again, unless it's a very, very quick wick, which is why I always say have a soft stop loss, because, you know, wicks are common in crypto. It can happen. If it was a hard stop loss, I would have set my stops probably underneath this previous low here, because this is the previous low of the wave 2. And then obviously we had a 1, 2, 3 to the upside. Again, this is where you'd want it to turn around. So I'd be looking for something like that. But this isn't, this is now not really high confidence, right? This isn't really high confidence, but I am hedging my bets that this support holds, at least for the time being. And, you know, at the very least, we can see up to where this previous high was and fill this fair value gap to where this previous wick was, this previous low. You could probably see it better on the hourly. So I am hoping to see at least we get up to around here. And then obviously if we see a complete fall through, then at least we can take some profit off the table here. On the smaller time frame, we can even probably draw a trend line. So that's probably about right here. So yeah, I mean, again, at the moment it's looking low confidence. We're curling up a little bit. If we look at the RSI, if we have any form of bullish divergence, a little bit, yeah. So let's look at this in a bit more detail. So yeah, you can see obviously we were oversold here when we reached this 18-cent level, and then obviously we fell below to around 0.177, and you can see obviously the RSI minimally here, minimally. This is a bit of hopium, to be perfectly honest. It's a bit of hopium. You know, we're seeing bullish divergence, and we're obviously seeing price go further down. So it is a bit of hopium, but at the very least, as I said, I am hoping for at least some relief, possibly to fill this fair value gap here. That might happen in the next couple of hours, perhaps. But again, we need to obviously just keep an eye out, right? We've got our entries down here, obviously if things turn bad. And yeah, there will be some profit taken if we do happen to fill these entries. I wouldn't really want to be holding Doge for too long. It was looking strong, but now it's kind of being questioned. It's being challenged, basically. The bulls are being challenged by the bears, and we just have to basically wait and see as to what happens with that. We're still pretty much holding this trend line that I've drawn since the low that happened on the 11th of March. So we're still holding it, but barely. Okay, barely holding it at the moment. What I would also like to look at, which is also important, is the USDT dominance, right? Because if we look at USDT dominance, that can tell us a lot. Now, this is why I am not super bullish yet, okay? Because USDT dominance it's been performing quite well, okay? If we look at it on a daily time frame, you know, we can immediately identify main areas of support, main areas of resistance, right? So we've got our main area of support at around 3.77%. We've got our main area of resistance at 9.46%. And, you know, I'd say probably since December, we're obviously just kind of in this range where we've been bouncing between that 3.77 and the 6.73% area, right? So we've been bouncing around this range highs, range lows, range highs, range lows, possibly range highs, okay? Now, you can see obviously I've got this trend line here, okay? Two ways this can go. We either basically come back down to this area of support and then break through and continue upwards. Now that would be a bad sign for Bitcoin. It would be a bad sign for alts. It would be a bad sign, okay? For anyone that obviously forgets, USDT dominance is essentially just telling you how much of USDT people are keeping to themselves, right? So, you know, if people are selling their crypto coins, then obviously USDT dominance is going to increase, right? Because people are selling their tokens, they don't want to be in the market anymore, they're scared, extreme fear on the fear and greed index, and they are holding on to USDT to eventually buy their tokens, but just not now, okay? So that's pretty much how it works. So, as I said, the expectation is that we do potentially come back down to this 4.62% area. But, in terms of the long-term outlook, I do potentially see the 3.77% support being retested, but I don't think it'll be retested anytime soon. Now, the question will be, will it be tested before we break out of this trend line? Okay? Because if we break out of this trend line, that's going to send everything down, right? You're going to see ETH just drop horrendously. You'll see Bitcoin drop. You'll see alts bleed hard. Some might even go to new bear market lows. Now, I'm not trying to be a bear, right? I want to see an altcoin season, okay? But Bitcoin has predominantly had its run, right? Bitcoin has run from about 17,000, 16,000 to 100,000, right? And, last year I said that by the end of the year, I predict that Bitcoin will hit 100K, and it hit 100K, it hit around 107K. Whether we get another high, that is questionable, okay? So don't expect it and don't hope for it, because we've already had our run. The best we can do right now is to just trade against what we've got to trade with, okay? I'm personally not buying any spot positions at the moment, not right now. Link, for instance, is one of my favorite coins. I bought it at $10, sold a little bit at around $30, $35. Yeah, it was around, I think it was around $30. Where was it? Let me just check. Hourly. No, let's go 4 hour. So where did I buy it? I bought it around here. Yeah, I bought it around here. It was definitely about $30 or $28, $30, yeah. So I kind of sold a lot of my Link around here. $35 was like the main target, but obviously we didn't kind of get there. My long-term goal for Link is around $100, but honestly, I don't see us getting there in this cycle. Okay. Sorry, just switching back to Link, because Link is a very good example of what we might see as when the bull run will come to an end, if we have one, right? So my target for Link now is obviously just previous highs. Previous highs would be nice. Whether we say that that's at $30 or whether we say that's at $50, if you are buying down here, then obviously, getting to $30 is nice. It's a 2x, right? You put 10 grand on it, you get 20 grand. Yay, right? But I would definitely be taking some off the table at this point, because there is going to be heavy resistance up here, and breaking that previous high to get to the all-time high at $50 is also going to be pretty tough. Okay. We need to see more strength in the market. because of political events, because of war, etc., I don't see it happening right now. I think the market in general needs to cool off a little bit, right? So I'll quickly jump to the DXY. Now, the DXY for me has always been kind of a good indicator to tell me if, the stock markets are going to be going up or down, right? So essentially, obviously, if the dollar is strong, then your stocks are potentially going to suffer a little bit. That might also include Bitcoin suffering a little bit. And normally there is an inverse correlation between the two. Okay. Now, the DXY reached an important area of support. I think it was a few days ago. Yeah, it was like a week ago, something like that. It was like 10 days ago. So we reached this level here, which is kind of like the previous low area. Okay. And if you take a fib from the low to the high, so essentially we did kind of break through the golden pocket area, the 618 golden pocket area, but we were kind of holding above this previous low, right? So this was pretty much a deviation below the 618 level. We broke through, and now we're retesting. Okay, now this is where it can get interesting, because if the DXY pushes through, my target for the DXY before we possibly see Bitcoin recover and alts recover was this previous low here. Okay, this was basically acting as support for the DXY. It broke down, and my expectation is that we retest this level. Now we can see that on the DXY, it's literally just, this looks like a 1-2 setup. This looks like a 1-2 setup. I'm not gonna lie, it looks like a 1-2 setup. Okay. By that, what I mean is that we might see A, B, C. Okay. Now, if that happens, as I said, we're gonna see a lot of crypto dropping. Okay. This will bring Bitcoin down. Whether it brings it down to around the 81K area, we'll have to see. But this is not looking good for crypto. Okay. So, when you're looking at all of this, you have to kind of look at everything together, right? You can't just look at Bitcoin and just say, yeah, okay, this is what's going to happen. It's good to obviously look at things like the DXY, things like the stock market, because it's good to have different confluences, right? You can identify different areas that you might be looking at. You can identify support, resistance, and you can potentially see what's ahead of you, right? You can get a good idea of probabilities as well. Okay. Now, I will possibly look at some other coins. So I'm just reading through the chat. Fear and greed at 22. Yeah, so I mean that's fear, right? Is that fear or is that extreme fear? Let's have a look. Fear and greed index. What's that? So I'm just doing it on my phone. Yeah, so that's basically fear. That's basically fear. We were in extreme fear, right? We were in extreme fear when we went to like 76K. So, not fearful yet. Not fearful yet. We were in extreme fear down here. And then obviously we went up. Now, extreme fear is also a good indicator, by the way. It is also a good indicator of when it's good to top up. But that alone should not be a reason to buy, because we can be in extreme fear and we can be heading for a bull market and that's a bear market, and that's it. Forget about it, right? Bitcoin goes back to 32 grand and shut the shop for a year, basically. I can tell you now though, if Bitcoin ever went to those levels, not financial advice, but I'd be buying 32K Bitcoin. Yeah, I'd be buying like 100%. There's no doubt about that. H bar was another coin that I was eyeing up. And you know what? It looked like a really, really good setup, right? Looked like a really good setup. I didn't take this trade because it's a little bit sus. It's a little bit sus at the moment, okay? The reason I say that is because I just don't like the look of the price action at the moment. I don't like the look of it. And probably rightly so, because that daily candle that looks like it's about to form looks a little bit unhealthy, okay? Like, it looks like we're possibly breaking down the previous, through the previous low. But, you know, this could be a golden trade if it worked out. So, I am obviously still debating whether to take the trade or not, because the setup looks really nice. So, if we look at this trend line, we had a breakout of trend line, retest of this area here, where this previous low was, come back down. So, typically with trend line breakouts is you say, come back down to retest the previous 4 hour candle, okay? I mean, if we look at this, you know, it's going to be around the area that we're in. Okay, so it is going to be around the area we're in. So we basically just come down, broke out, retest, and then send. That'll be nice. But it's if it holds, okay? So, you know, I might call this, I've been saying for a while, I'm going to call this trade. It's just that it doesn't look like it has that strength at the moment, okay? We had this previous area of resistance here. We just haven't managed to break out from this, okay? So I'm holding off at the moment. I'm holding off because if we break this low, you know, we drop, and we drop hard at this point. We will drop to at least 12.5 cents, at least, in my opinion, okay? Drop to at least this area before we turn around. So nothing wrong with this trade. Honestly, you know, we can keep our stops tight. And I might call it, and I might risk like 3% of my port. But H bar is one that I'm watching. It's been performing actually quite well, to be fair. Throughout the maybe like last year, it's been performing relatively well, right? We had this kind of trend line down here. I could draw this trend line, and then we broke out. We didn't even give a retest. We just broke out. But I don't see this as a 5-wave move up. Okay? I don't see this as a 5-wave move. Remember, we always need a 5-wave move to confirm that we will get upside continuation. If we don't see a 5-wave move up, there is no signal of upside continuation. Now, you know, you could probably look at anything and say, oh, it's a 5-wave move, right? You could probably look at anything. Like here, for instance. You could say, yeah, but that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Maybe. But there are also levels. There are also levels that need to be reached in order to call something a wave 2 and a wave 3. And I'll probably explain that in a different video. For now, I think it's just good to know that with H bar, for instance, we're kind of just seeing it in a range. You know, and this is probably a good coin to scalp, because we've pretty much got range highs, range lows, near to range highs, range lows, range highs here, range lows. You know, you could probably scalp this all day long if you wanted to. It's going to break at some point. It's going to break at some point. And whether that's going to break to the upside or whether that's going to break to the downside, we can't say yet. But we need to look at market sentiment. Market sentiment isn't looking good at the moment, but we will just obviously hold out for that. Okay. So yeah, if there's any specific coin requests, by the way, I'm very happy to look at them. The only thing I don't have a look at is crap coins, like fart coin or butthole or I don't know what other crap that is out there. Or Trump coin, which was kind of funny because Trump was like trying to, I don't know if you guys saw that tweet, but Trump was trying to like push his Trump coin, which was quite funny. I think it pumped a little bit. I don't know how much it pumped. I mean, honestly, I find it hilarious that like the president of the United States is trying to pump a coin, his own coin. It's really funny. I can't remember when it was. I mean, he must have this crazy. You know what? Maybe it was this crazy wick, or maybe it was this. It was at some point that he just like mentioned it and it just pumped. But you can see it's pretty much pump and dump, right? It's pretty much pump and dump. Like we're just continuously going down on this coin. I mean, I don't know what he's expecting, but yeah, nothing can come good from this. This doesn't. I mean, this looks pretty dead at the moment. But you say that, right? You could draw a trend line, and you know, it almost looks like we've kind of hit a floor, right? Might have hit the floor on this coin. So gotta watch what happens. I mean, this is support on Trump coin. And we might get a deviation below support, come back and then send. So I don't know though. I don't particularly trade these kind of meme coins. You know, I mean, we've got WIF, which I was eyeing up for a while. I was eyeing it up actually when it was like 50 cents. I really wanted it to come back down from like, you know, $4 or whatever the hell it got to. $5 to 50 cents. 50 cents is funny. But yeah, like it didn't even hold that level, sadly. Probably blame Solana on that one. But yeah, what was the 50 cent level? 50 cent level was like here. This was pretty much, do you know what, this Binance chart is definitely not the one I'm looking at. Yeah, MEX is the one because we have all of the old data from it. You can see when it was pretty much down here, right? It was at like down at like 10 cents or something like that. It was kind of bobbling around this area. I don't know. I mean, I don't want to say it, but WIF kind of looks pretty much dead and gone at this point. I wouldn't trade this anymore. And I wouldn't trade this anymore purely because we basically broke under the 786 retracement area, which was basically $1, right? And you can see that even a previous low was here at $1. We had a bounce, but I mean that's I wouldn't even class that as bounce. It's like a little bounce, and then obviously just continue to break down, and I don't even think we've even broke any trend line. Yeah, no, it still looks like trash. And still something I wouldn't touch. So yeah, at this point, trades that are open are just Doge. I did obviously have Bitcoin, but I kind of didn't have high hopes for it. Doge again is still pretty much sitting around our entry. It's not really moved that much, which is expected because this is an important area for Doge to hold. And I also suspect that Bitcoin has not really budged much. I could probably get rid of this line because we fell through it. So yeah, this dotted line here is pretty much where it needs to hold, as I mentioned. So that's pretty much it. I don't have anything else to talk about on the subject. All I could say is obviously for the weekend, please be careful if you're trading on the weekend. Weekend trading is either boring or either insane and chaotic. Where you just see like capitulation wicks and everything else. So Be very careful trading on the weekend. I am not really going to look for anything new unless I see something golden that looks amazing. But still holding Doge. That's pretty much it. Let's see what next week holds for us. Are we going to go to 70k or are we going to go to 90 plus k? We shall see probably in the next week or two. Thank you for joining my stream. I really appreciate it, guys. Helps me out a lot. Gives me, it just makes me feel good. Obviously, seeing people join and obviously be interested in what I'm charting. And, you know, as I said, I do requests. So any interesting coins, let me know. But yeah, please don't send me like butthole or fartcoin. Would really appreciate that. So yeah, make sure you guys have a good weekend. And I'll see you next week.